I need to explain something to all of you out there who's watching this. Thanks for the support, thanks for the interest, and thanks for the future troll comments put everywhere. I just got out of a very severe treatment. If you followed the band, you know that I'm bipolar type 1 and schizophrenic, but now it went so far because of people around me and people who shouldn't be able to have any, power over other people, especially not someone like me who's better. So I got PTSD now, so I've been going through a very, very intense period of electroshocks. So I'm on new medicines, I don't drink alcohol, I lose my speech sometimes, short-term memory loss, just so you don't think that I'm high or anything, because that's very important to me, because that's apparently everything that you care about.
So the first question goes that, do you remember when you heard metal music for the first time?
Yeah, I fondly do. The thing is, I might be very young, and I started my band when I was very young, but it all came down to my grandmother.
Okay.
When the CD came, and a CD cost like 80 euros, she basically gave me all the vinyls, and she had not a lot of black metal, but she had one Mäenpää thing, and the typical things that you could get back then.
Kiss and...
Well, Kiss never interested me and never interested her, but I think we got together, which is actually extremely interesting because of today as well. Something that still resonates within the band, and that is when she gave me Appetite for Destruction, which I still consider being the best black metal album ever made. And people are gonna go, oh yeah, it's not black metal, blah blah blah. No, but it's not about running around forests, it's about forcing women to go and crack, and steal their credit cards and make them buy the most disgusting wine there is in LA back in the 80s,
So what was like in metal music that sort of like caught your attention and made you fall in love with it?
The Paris 92 show from the UC Illusion tour.
Okay.
And I was sold. I wanted to be Slash, I guess that's why I always search for someone with the same resemblance as Slash, which I found in Høst. The only difference is that Høst is a genius when it comes to creating atmospheres and, making Shining into something that no other people can.
So when you started Shining, you were only 12 years old, and you first played guitar. So was it like the guitarist that you sort of like looked up to as an influence, or how did that happen that you became a musician?
Well, okay, Shining started in 96, but I had my first band in 94, 93, 94. When I moved up from third grade to fourth grade, and I met a guy called Alexander Purkis,
okay,
who later took a more for the third album, because the thing is, his bigger brother, he is now incapable of even paying his bills, and he blames it on me. Which is kind of sad, because we're all in charge of our own destinies. I have to say, this is really hard to talk about when I'm sober, and I like it. Just to finish it, so basically Alex and me, he changed his name when he joined Shining on the third album, when I had completely broken down his bigger brother. He changed his name to Phil Cerrone, which is basically, if you if you can, if you're into like anagrams and stuff, it's kind of interesting because it represents necrophilia. And we were in the 4th grade, you know, and as he had British offspring, he knew English, and I just knew how to, what I wanted. I mean, we came down to this cellar in school, you know, and it was fucking beautiful because the guy who had this whole thing played in a band called Proboscis.
Okay.
And it ended up that he played drums with us because we had one drummer, Yaki, who was from Bangladesh. And I remember we had a discussion because Alex's brother, a bigger brother, said you can't be with fucking black people, you know, or colored people in black metal, which was the way it was back then, you know. And so I said, it's not a problem, we just put corpse paint on him and fucking gloves. But, you know, I didn't think that through, but he lost his whole football interest and career. He was actually a pretty promising player. Okay. And yeah, so we made a few songs, and we were called Incinerate, and we did our first live show in 90 or whatever, when we went to 5th grade in the aula. And we were called Incinerate, and I still remember the lyrics still today, you know, from one of the songs.
Was that already like, it was already black metal band?
Well, we went down to the guy because we knew that he had played with some of the House of Kicks bands. Say, we want to sound like Entombed.
Okay, so that was the goal.
Yeah, but he gave us the Morbid demo because back then it was like a very small circle, and that changed us a bit.
Okay.
This whole thing about, I missed that, you know, the mysteriousness of everything. To make a long story short, what happened was that people died, and I found something else, actually, to this thing called Gula Tidningen, which is basically for people who are who are not at least 4 years old. They won't understand this, but back then, kids, there was this thing we had in Sweden called Gula Tidningen, and they probably had it here as well in a different name, where basically people can put in advertisements for that they want to sell, you know, a fax machine. If you know what a fax machine is.
Yep.
I'm feeling old. Thank you. And I found this guy who happened to be a guy that I bought a lot of records from, and he learned me had a band called Face of Evil.
Okay.
Which they only released a 25 copy demo tape, and then ended up, ironically, like 10 years later, me doing the artwork for the first release on Metal Blood Music. So, you know, I was born into it, but I was always so fucking fed up.
So when you started, you were a guitarist first? And then you became a vocalist in Shining.
Yeah, back then Phyllis Rome was singing.
But how did you become a singer? And were there like some singers that you sort of like looked up to?
I looked up to several singers. So if I would say the biggest three that really inspired me was Attila Kachar.
Yeah.
Especially because I heard the cassettes before the album was released, and I was just blown away, and everyone was just like, nah, we want to hear Dead. But yeah, Dead has a certain thing, but Attila did there created a certain uncomfortable feeling that
the Mysteries Dom Satanas wouldn't sound the same without him.
Of course not. I actually think it would have been crap, in my honest opinion. It's the same like... can you rephrase the question so I understand it? Sorry, it's the...
So when you became a vocalist, what vocalist did you look up to?
Looked up to him, and I looked up to Ozzy Osbourne, obviously. And a guy called Jocke Berg from Kent.
Okay.
So it's but everything changes, you know, from time to time. This is why we always do a lot of covers on the side, because I want to learn how to sing. and it's proven to actually work out pretty well. But there's so much. I mean, back in those days, we were just scrolling through the fucking every record shop we could find, every obscure place, you know, just to find what we want. And sadly, today, I sort of lost interest in music in general. I haven't been listening to music properly in a couple of years.
So when you started shining and started doing more like black metal type of singing, were you sort of first like covering other singers before you were developing your own vocals, or did you like immediately jump right into your own music and started doing things your own way?
Actually, no. It all started that with Gula Tidningen again. I met a guy called Andreas, who Andreas Casado. We became very good friends, and he explained and sort of made Burson touch me in ways that it's supposed to. Because back then it was either me or Burson. You know, and after he managed to impregnate this fucking mind, this fucking thing in my mind, resulting in the fact that I still do think Philosophem is the best black metal album ever made. The thing that happened was that he was actually the guy who later on went off to start the band Silencer, and we were writing music together, so it was kind of inevitable they would cross our paths, and he played in Shining several times as well. But I'm not the kind of social media guy, or you know, searching YouTube for answers about people that I actually know. But it's really cool what the internet and social media has managed to do out of this person. You know, create a sort of slender man of some sort. You know, like I met the guy, and trust me, he might be slender, but he's not a slender man. You know? It's extremely interesting to see how things fall. But all the friends I still have today are all connected to the past. You know.
So when it comes to like screaming your lungs out, did it take long time to figure out the right technique for it? Were you losing your voice in the early days?
No, because usually, and this is actually a problem with festivals, because they don't believe me when I come up and I say you have to, because I'm not paying for the PA system. Usually black metal singers and extreme metal singers go like, okay, give me a line just of something. Okay, so let's say Fear of the Dark, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, so a black metal singer, the typical black metal singer, who doesn't take from either from the heart or from the back and those kind of things, they would go like, Fear of the Dark, because that's the way it's easy. I, on the other hand, go, Fear of the Dark!
Yeah, so way more powerful.
No, yeah, because I use my whole body. And when I do that, you know, PA systems explode, because they think like, yeah, we've seen so many black metal bands and blah, blah, blah. Number one, we're not that black metal, but we're more blacker than them. And number two, I mean, come on, I'm a singer, it's my instrument.
Yeah, of course.
And it's really sad that people don't want to listen because of arrogance, but I guess most of them are Germans.
So what kind of like memories do you have when it comes to the first proper tour that you did? When it comes to like singing and screaming, were you ready to do like many shows in a row, or did you have to learn something, or was it more like a party thing to do, or what kind of memories do you have?
I was too young. I was like 15 maybe, I don't know. And actually it's really interesting that 19 was the first show outside of Halmstad, Sweden. We did in Trondheim. And that was something else. Although I realized that I didn't like to play live, because I didn't like to play with people that I couldn't fully trust. And as I'm the only one in the band who has a more spiritual agenda to the whole thing, it's always really hard because even if I would like to, you know, persuade these people to go my way or his way, her way, no matter how you label it, that's not my job to do with some other person. I have to teach a completely new job from scratch anyway. So, you know, the thing is that people always ask me like, what do you regret and stuff. I don't regret anything except for trusting people, you know. And when me and Nick Barker were sitting down, we were saying like, you know, okay, it's up to 92 people now that's been fired throughout the years. Yeah, I'm sorry, you know, I understand I'm the problem, but so are you, because if people wanna play games, you know, they better fucking bring the arsenal for it. I hate this one, especially now. It's completely impossible to know what a person is, you know. So this is why when I made the new Shining album, I was, you know, the 11th. I sat down with Annie LaRocque actually and talked and said, if I'm gonna do something, it's gonna be with people that have at least 20 years of experience. And so there's no bitching. You know? I have enough of death threats and bullshit with people who try to bring us down all the time, canceling our accounts and sending death threats and bombs and blah 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 blah. But you know, at the end of the day, that might be a pretty good thing. I remember Dark Throne. Was it on Transylvania Hunger? The original president, when they were saying like the most hated band in the world. I think we stole that title. But we have to see it from the other side. It's a very positive thing that we in this day and age have the capacity of touching people to such an extent that it fucking infuriates them.
Yep.
That's something I am extremely proud of. Even though if it cost me apartments, life, money, you know, relationships. That's my legacy.
So when it comes to warming up for shows, do you have a warm-up routine, or do you just go up on stage and warm up during the show, your voice?
I used to do a lot of cocaine and I used to do a lot of drinks before. And the reason I did that is because I simply couldn't... I could do the shows, not always, and this is something, okay, I said I don't regret anything, but I regret the fact that I was doing too much of this. You know, you think you sound fucking fantastic when you sing, but in reality, it sucks. It sounds like you're fucking pooing yourself.
Are there like some specific foods or drinks that you have felt that they help you with the singing and screaming, or on the opposite side, something that you don't want to take before the show?
I can say like this. I met a doctor in Stockholm. I cannot say his name for legal reasons, but they are doing this like, basically, let's say, hypothetically, you walk into a fucking sushi restaurant, into the kitchen, and you come into a small doctor's office behind the kitchen, and basically you have all the stars there, like, you know, Madonna was there, for example, and stuff, just because she lost her voice and she needed to do something. I couldn't speak, but I had one of my most important gigs. So Universal actually helped. Got me a thing there. He listened to a few of my songs, putting cameras in my throat, and he wants me to do certain parts of how I sing this and that and that and that.
Okay, so he was correcting your singing a bit.
Yeah, and then he was asking, what drugs do you use?
Okay, so
which is something a doctor can't ask. That's why I'm not saying the name. But I said, well, I use coke, speed, and back then also heroin, whatever it was. And he said, okay, you can use maybe one line of coke every week. Speed is fine, because it won't hurt you in that way. And same with alcohol. we're going through all these things with the alcohol, and he said, okay, you cannot drink bourbon. If you're gonna drink any liquor that's brown, it's extremely important that you go and drink something completely else. Like if you like whiskey, then you go for single malt. I like whiskey, but only a third of a bottle. After that, we had what's it called? They were going through this, like simple things like vodka. Okay. And a doctor is not allowed to say these things at all. So that's why I really appreciated it. And it fixed my voice for that night, but then I was... Yeah, because it's taboo to talk about mental illness, and it's taboo to talk about, a musician, a traveling musician, or an actor on the top of his game, for example, that they do drugs to drink. Of course they fucking do drugs and drinks, It's impossible to cope otherwise. I don't know what you think, but I think you agree with me on that one.
Yes, I actually do. So, you've released 10 albums so far, and the 11th one is coming up on September 15th. But with those 10 albums that has already come out, are there like some specific albums that you could pinpoint where you have felt yourself that you've taken like a big step forward as a vocalist? Learned something new about yourself, or?
Definitely Halmstad. I mean, Halmstad will always be the milestone with it because it was under so fucked up circumstances, and I had to leave the country before the mix. And the producer we had was a fucking nightmare. He was in the middle of a divorce, so we had to record it in 7 different studios.
Ah, okay.
And but it really made Shining what it was, And Peter got into the picture, so I think that means a lot. Then,
so why was it like vocal-wise a good album?
because I dared to do something like. No, usually I was terrified of singing.
Okay, before.
Yeah, I mean the first album it's half Klassen from Bethlehem and half me, but I took away most of him because I sounded better. I didn't know I could do it. Nothing wrong about Klassen. I was really proud to have him there, but I don't know. It's like I started to realize when I could use my voice as an instrument instead of just like,
Yeah.
I could start to not only, people obviously always have a claim of Shining, saying, it's not true because of this or that. I think it's a little bit of jealousy. And when touring like that, it's, anyone who hasn't been touring like extensively knows what they're talking about. It's like, have you ever seen the Swedish film Ge för gemenskap?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you know Örjan from Tokyo?
Yep.
Yeah, I gave him a copy, and after he was recording with me in the studio, and he has sent it basically to every Bergensen motherfucker, And there's this band called Nürnberg 47 in it, who has a song called Barn, which he always recites to me, and it's not getting tiring at all after 15 years. But nothing wrong about Örjan, but I don't know, I need something more to go on.
So, when it comes to the upcoming album,
Yeah.
the 11th one, are there like some things vocal-wise that you did, some new things which you haven't done before?
It's really cool to have Andy as a mentor in that. It's almost become like a 6th member, But
Does he put a lot of focus on the vocals?
yeah, he's the only one who has ever dared to be against me and say like, how about trying that?
That's good.
If it was 10 years ago, I would go, go fuck yourself. The ego side would take over. Mm-hmm. Now it's more like I listen to him, and sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. But you should always listen to the older people. Who's been in the game longer, and he really understands Shining. For not only for musical things but for personal reasons, which I can't dive into here, unfortunately. But
any kind of advice you would like to give to like a metal vocalist who is just about to start their journey? Anything that comes into your mind?
yeah, don't listen to metal if you want to be a metal vocalist.
Very good point.
I learned everything from as soon as you get out, not only outside of your your comfort zone. What you have to learn as a vocalist and as any artist is that you cannot look. Why does Shining sound so weird as it does? Like different. It's because I never learned how to play the guitar. When you are learning something in a way like that, you're being indoctrinated. Well,
Yeah, I know the word, but I cannot pronounce it myself either.
I will try one more time. When you learn something from a teacher or you learn scales, you learn how music theory works. All of a sudden, without using that word, all of a sudden, you know nothing else, because no matter if you play something, you will always get back to something that someone else has put in your fingers. So your fingers are being led by a secondary citizen who couldn't. We're honest here.
Yeah.
To a secondary citizen who fucking failed with his own band and ended up giving lessons to be able to pay for his, marijuana addiction or whatever. I don't smoke the shit, so I don't know how to pronounce it in a cooler way, but just what I'm saying is that the reason I'm a success when it comes to music, maybe not in other parts of life, but as a musician, is because I don't think logically. I don't know rules, and if I knew them, I would probably try to break them, but it would be impossible if I learned how to do it. I just took a guitar, put my fingers on it, and made every guitarist throughout the years I played with very angry because they don't have spider fingers apparently.
Thanks a lot for doing this.
Thank you so much.